Hey guys, welcome to my first terrarium build. This whole project is an attempt to save this Boston fern that has been trying to die ever since I bought it. I also have some Photonias, two of which I propagated, and the white one I recently bought. You need to only use demineralized water in terrariums or bad things will happen. I can't remember the details, but trust me. I'm going to wet some sphagnum moss with the water, which comes in a handy 5 litre container, so no idea what I'm going to be doing with the other 4.5 litres of demineralized water. I've also got charcoal, and I have some pebbles, potting mix, which I have right here, and I have some fly screen, and I'm going to obtain some what I think is springtails from my compost bin. I really don't think that that's something you should do, but let's not dwell on that. I don't really want to buy bugs at this stage. I've washed these pebbles and my jar, and the first layer in the terrarium is going to be the pebbles to allow the medium, that's the fancy word for soil in terrariums, to drain and not turn into swamp sludge. So I'm just gonna dump a bunch in and kind of guesstimate how much I need. I think it's like some people say that you can use a pot with no hole in it to plant a houseplant into. I think it would work if you use like the terrarium method here, where you have a layer of pebbles and then you put a layer of fly screen on top of it. The fly screen just stops the soil from falling in, so that would work. I probably should have cut my fly screen first, but we're going to do that now. I'm going to be really lazy and just cut it around the base of my jar. This fly screen is aluminium, so it won't rust, which is really important. And it's going to just stop everything that goes on top of it from sitting in the rocks, which is where your excess water is going to drain to. So super important to keep the dirt and stuff from getting rotten, basically. I think that you don't necessarily have to have the fly screen. You can probably just use the charcoal and the sphagnum to stop stuff falling into the rocks, but this was like $9 for this big roll, so I thought let's do it properly. So just gonna trim it up. It doesn't matter if it's a little too big, but you want to make sure that it's not too small so that you don't end up with bits of soil and your other stuff falling down the side. And just trim it as needed, basically. And then I'm going to add on a layer of charcoal straight on top of the rocks, and then onto that I'm going to put my fly screen and then a thinnish layer of the damp sphagnum. And then on top of the damp sphagnum I'm going to add my layer of premium potting mix as my planting medium, just up to where I think is a good amount. And then my next step basically will be to take my plants out, dump them out of their pot, and then come back and go from there. I'm back, and the pink Photonias don't have heaps of roots because I recently water propagated them. So I think they'll be okay, but we'll just have to see. I'm going to just trim all of the plants just to get rid of the dead or damaged leaves before I plant them in, just so that there's less stuff to rot in there. I've got most of my information for terrarium builds from watching a few videos from Serpa Designs, and I really recommend watching his videos. He does some beautiful terrariums. He's much better at this than me. The Venus flytrap one is to die for. He also has a great video on making a free terrarium, which is an awesome idea. So this is going to be a closed terrarium, which means the lid should be able to stay shut for a long period of time, and the same water will be condensing on the jar and then running into the soil to water the plants, and that cycle will repeat itself and continue, which is where the charcoal comes in. The charcoal in the terrarium is going to be removing impurities and toxins from the water as the water passes through it. And yeah, and as for the bugs that I'm, obtaining probably in not the best method, the importance of the springtails or whatever bugs you're able to get your hands on that are supposed to go in terrariums is that they will eat the mold and the fungus and the decomposing matter and prevent any mold overgrowth of your terrarium. Some people will often say the terrarium is just like covered in mold so quickly when they're doing a closed terrarium, and that's because you don't have the full ecosystem going through it. You need those little bugs in there munching away, reducing the mold buildup. So you need the mold there, but without the bugs it's just going to overgrow and you're going to end up with a disgusting, gross, moldy jar basically. So I kind of felt like I had to put bugs of some kind in it, but there's limited options that I could find online to buy them in Australia, just because of, I guess, our biosecurity rules and that kind of thing, and it's not a big thing here yet, terrariums and stuff. I'm sure you could buy them somewhere. I was just a bit lazy and didn't really research it that highly, but I just thought I would risk using some wild ones. I have heard that if you use soil from the garden and some potting mixes as well, you will get some bugs in there anyway, which they should build up and equalize the mold population at some point. Here I have some soil which may or may not have come from my compost bin. I am 100% not recommending this. Please don't do this. I can see a bunch of what I think are springtails crawling around in there and some other bugs. I'm going to tip some distilled water into the container and the bugs should float, and then I will tip the water into the terrarium. Sorry about the terrible angle here, where you can't see a damn thing of what's going on, but just trust me that I'm pouring bug juice into the jar. Here's the end result. I'm going to put the lid on, but I feel like I've put way too much water in and I'm not really sure what to do about that just yet. I am happy with how it looks right now. I know it's pretty bare looking compared to people who are much better at terrarium building than me, but I want to let it settle before I add any other scaping aspects to it, just in case the plants die. So it's been about 4 days since I made the terrarium, and I put way too much water in it, like the noob that I am. So you can see water down the bottom here in the gravel, which apparently you're not supposed to, and it should only mist up on a hot day. This is misted up overnight, so since I made it, I've been taking the lid off in the morning and just wiping out all the condensation, and then just leaving the lid off for the day then to let it dry out, and that's been working pretty well actually. It's not at all condensing as much as it was, and I can definitely see less water in the rocks at the bottom. Unfortunately, I have found a couple fungus gnats. There's one now. Awesome. So that's pretty annoying. There's one there too. Tried to avoid them, but I guess I shouldn't have used the compost water because there was probably fungus gnats in that. And yeah, so shame. Bits of the fern are just coming off still, so the whole fern rescue is not going that well at this stage. It's been 2.5 weeks now since I first set up the terrarium, and I have some exciting news! My fern is growing some new foliage. Okay, let's get in really close here. See if you can see it. See that leaf there? That's a new growth since I put it in. And then if we go right down here, what is that? I don't even know. I assume it's going to be a big leaf. So obviously, Ferny Boy is lacking it in here. Now, I have had some fungus gnat issues, hence the yellow sticky trap. So I haven't got those under control, but I can't spray any bug spray in here because if it kills the fungus gnats, it's going to kill the bugs that I put in here on purpose. So I can't do that. I just I'm hoping that the sticky traps will catch them in time before they just take over. There's a lot in there at the moment now, looking at it. There's so many! Oh gosh, there goes one now. So I don't really know what else to do. I did have the sticky trap on a bamboo skewer in there, but it went really moldy. So obviously the springtails are doing their work if the rest of the terrarium isn't moldy. So I'm really happy about that. Now the Phytonias, the ones that I rooted are actually doing really well. The pink ones. Let me get in a bit closer. You can see him. It's a bit misty because it's going through its misty phase, but he's doing well. This guy is still kind of getting used to being in the high humidity. He was pretty dry when I bought him, so I'm not that surprised about it. But basically, I had to leave the lid off for, I think it was almost 2 weeks. And keep wiping down the sides as well, just to reduce the amount of liquid, because there's not meant to be any water. Can you see it? Any water in those rocks at the bottom there, which there isn't now. If I tilt it, no water comes flowing. They're just a little bit sort of wet looking, I guess, but there's no actual water sitting in the bottom. So that means, I should probably look this up instead of assuming, but I assume if there's water sitting in the bottom, then it's likely to go rotten. You know how stagnant water goes rotten? Whereas like if it's constantly being recycled, then it's going to pass through the charcoal layer and be sort of cleansed every single time and not go rotten. So, but it's going really well, so well. I'm so excited about it. Yay! So I've collected a few sticks and rocks that I'm going to use to scape it. Still going to leave it a bit longer in the hope that the fungus gnats piss off. If they don't, I might cover the whole thing in pebbles to try and stop them from reproducing. But yeah, so next time you see this, I will be doing a video on how I'm going to add some natural sticks and rocks that I have collected. Fun times! See ya!